Hello, dear learners. First of all, I welcome you all to the Unit 14 on Feminism and Audience Reception. In Module 9, Media, Audience and Gender of this MOOC, we have learned about the intricacies of audiences in different types of media, along with the significance of gender as a primary factor. This unit will help you understand some significant aspects of feminism as well as about audience reception on how feministic approaches are delivered by media and subsequently perceived. So the main objectives of this module are to deliver the significance of this feministic approach, outline the gender-based approaches undertaken by media, define the various theories that are present in audience reception and their relation to gender-based outcomes. Now, we move on to feminism. Before that, we should understand how feminism is defined. The Oxford English Dictionary defines feminism as the advocacy for equality between the sexes and the establishment of political, social and economic rights for women. Feminism advocates and promotes the equality of sexes and marks the right of women. Some of the broad concepts of feminism are, now we talk about the historical evolution of the idea of feminism. Feminism, the development, has been divided into a number of phases. The first wave of feminism that involved in the 19th century stressed on reforms both political and legal. This was about suggesting reforms. The second wave feminism, developed in the 1960s, was more demanding about breaking the shackles of patriarchy. Towards the later part, the white feminism, which was structured around white women, ignoring the issues of ethnic groups, was predominant among gender-critical feminists. To understand feminism, we also have to understand what defines masculinism. In brief, masculinism feels that men have the right to govern over women. However, the same does not apply vice versa. This can be traced back to the teachings of Aristotle, who contemplated family strict in terms of national hierarchy, having subjects and rulers. This view of Aristotle has been strongly contested by feminist critics who vehemently support the concept of moral and intellectual equality of women, completely opposing the idea that the subjects are women and the rulers as men. Feminism has evolved as a response to historical injustices faced by women. The movement emerged in opposition to masculinism, which is the belief that men should govern women, of course, and this has been crucial for understanding the motivation behind feminist advocacy. If you look at the philosophical advocacy, we do understand that the idea that women cannot be holding the governance are contested purely on the basis of philosophy of feminism. Feminism also has a lot of political legitimacy. As the idea progressed, feminism dealt with a number of theories permeating to political legitimacy, aristocracy, and meritocracy. The exclusion of the idea of masculinism and its associated view emphasized that the women have equal role in political power and policy making. This highlights the political dimension of feminism, and it also seeks to redefine who the authority is to govern. Now, we move on to the social contract theory of feminism. The feministic thought was largely affected by the social contract theory, which laid down people cohabit the society based on agreements. It determined their political and behavioral rules. Of course, it was an agreement among men, which was basically stated by feminists, thereby demanding that the women's role needs to be majorly reviewed. There has been a cultural shift. Feminism has also been influenced by cultural shift like that of the French Revolution and other significant political changes that place. All this led the women to come forward and talk about feminism and how they are represented in the global forum. Advocacy for right. The absence of equal right in spheres like political, economical as well as social gave wings to the idea of feminism. In summary, the factors influencing feminism include historical context, political foundations, philosophical ideas, legitimacy, social contract theory, and all these go into the culmination of advocacy for women's rights. Now, how does media act as a bridge? Since we're talking about gender in media, we have to understand how does media promote this idea of feminism. In today's information-rich environment, media serves as a crucial link between individuals, governments, and society. It plays an important role in shaping people's perceptions and discussions around feminist issues. It influences how societal attitudes towards women's rights or any other gender issues are being taken. Media does take a lot of role in shaping people's perception. It serves as a powerful tool in how society views feminism and women's rights. It can either reinforce narrative of stereotyping or either it can break the shackles of such stereotyping. This influence is essential for fostering a more nuanced understanding of feministic issues. Media can also play the role of advocacy and awareness. Through various platforms, media can raise awareness about critical feminists such as reproductive rights, gender-based violence, and workplace equality. By highlighting these topics, media discourse can mobilize public support and encourage advocacy for women's rights. Media can also help encourage participation. When media portrays feminist activities and successes, it can inspire others to engage and contribute to the cause. For example, during Olympics, when media portrays on success of women, they are also inspiring a number of other women to take part in such kind of inspirational roles. Media can do a lot. It can expand the movement, reach, and impact. For example, the entire movement of women for the right to drive in the Middle Eastern countries was helped and progressed by media. Facilitating self-reflection. Media reporting on feminist issues can prompt individuals to reflect on their own beliefs and attitudes towards gender equality. This self-reflection is vital for personal growth. Films or any other documentary can play a very important role for personal growth, for personal understanding, for retrospective views of how we view feministic ideals. By engaging with feministic narratives, readers or audiences may be made aware of their own biases and societal structures that perpetuate inequality. Historical context and theory. The relationship between media and feminism is also informed by feminist theory and historical changes. Understanding the framework allows media better represent feminist issues and contribute to ongoing discussions about women's rights. This theoretical grounding can help audiences to understand and promote informed dialogue about feminism. Now we're talking about media and we're talking about feminism. We have to also understand the role of different theories that we have. The theories which kind of amplify what we are actually talking about. The first theory is the users and gratification theory. The users and gratification theory was developed in 1950s and 60s and was instrumental in identifying and making a number of social and psychological variables that had significant role in delivering about the different phenomena underlying uses and its gratification. Accordingly, Scram, Lyle, and Parker in 1961 said that children's consumption of media is related to their relationship in their family or with their peers. This is the kind of significance that the users and gratification hold, because it helps analyze the impact of the use rather than categorizing on why or how they are used. The broad framework of users and gratification theory was to determine why individuals generally look for specific content to fulfill their needs. Users and gratification approach also examines mass communication from the perspective of the communicator and also from the perspective of the audience. Now, when we summarize the users and gratification theory as from the studies of various theories, we do come up with the following points. First of all, audience as active participants. The user and gratification theory does not regard audience as passive. Rather, they consider them as very active, who have a lot of role in choosing what media they want to and the content based on their own needs and desires. This contrasts with accepted theories of media which have been pertaining over the years. Needs and motivation. The theory also suggests that media is largely determined by the needs and motivation of the audience. This is evident in the manner in which media content is chosen. Next is affective gratification. This theory believes that the audience or the receiver usually seek emotional responses or feelings from the media content. People choose media content because they want to feel, the emotional attachment. It's like releasing catharsis when they see something. Cognitive gratification. It does not only pertain to emotion but also pertains to the need for knowledge. A lot of people have a need to know. They have the hunger to know something about a particular thing or the knowledge. And this content actually gives them the knowledge that they've been looking for. Releasing stress. Many people also use media as a form of escapism, to relax or to let out stress. This is why media is considered to be an effective medium, because media can help not just give information but also provide with entertainment. Selective media. Most of the users consciously choose media over their needs, and people select the media based on their specific interests. People who love sports choose the sports channel. People who want entertainment go for entertainment. People who have quest for information go to other channels. So this is a selective medium. People can actually choose the medium and also choose what medium they do not want to be part of. Perceived risk. The user and gratification theory about content appropriation also has other issues like censoring, whether a certain content is being censored, particularly in terms of streaming services, in terms of OTT, for example, in terms of OTT platforms. There's a lot of streaming services that work with what people want, but this also leads to censorship issues. Although we are likely to continue using traditional tools, we have to understand with the modern intrusion of OTT platforms, the users and gratification theory can have challenges regarding interactivity, demassification, hypertextuality, and other interpersonal aspects of mediated communication. With this, we come to the end of the users and gratification theory. Now we move on to the audience reception theory. The audience reception theory primarily rests on the viewer's ability to interpret and engage with different forms of medium. The users and gratification theory had also said that the people are not passive audiences, but the audience reception theory talks more about how these different mediums like books, films, documentaries, and other forms of communication are being received and perceived by audience. And some of the key points to be taken from this are understanding reception. We do have to understand that from the audience perception, the word reception refers to the way the content is received, interpreted, or analyzed by the audience. This can be the different norms, values, and ideas that are being referred. Like we're talking about gender, we do understand that the content that the media generates, they become the social norms sometimes. They become, if too much of the same content is being generated over the course of time, that becomes a part of our social norm. So in that case, we do understand that audience reception, how the feminists look at the content which is given out, does it talk about norms which are already existing in the society, or does it reinforce through media perception? This gives rise to the element of narrative in subsequent discourses. Active engagement. The audience reception theory also banks on the idea that there's an active engagement by the audiences. They actively engage with cinematic narratives. Their interpretations are influenced by personal experiences, cultural backgrounds, and societal context. Decodifying messages. The theory banks on the idea that the people have the ability to decodify or encrypt certain messages. It puts on the trust on the audience that they have the ability to decodify, and it can happen on the basis of person's preconceived idea. If a person sees something on the media based on his personal growth, his predefined ideas, his knowledge, his upbringing, all that also affects how a person receives a particular information. If a film or literature conveys the messages in complex form, the decodifying can happen in different forms of perception, because if it's complex, different people will perceive it very differently. Of course, it also critiques the content. It also gives room for the people to critique what the content is. There are a lot of people who critique what is being shown on a TV or what is being shown through films and evaluate and monitor it accordingly. The digital age impact, of course, this theory has applications in television, but of course, like I've already spoken, in terms of OTT platforms, in terms of different news platforms which are there in different portals today, it has evolved with the advent of digital technology. And the audience reception theory, we can see that how it has changed. It has allowed for broader and more immediate exchange of interpretation and critiques because of the social and digital forums, especially in terms of gender. As we conclude the theories, we move on to the gender-based approaches to understanding audience. Gender-based approaches leads to a number of factors. Gender especially has different cultural impact, and the media content that is produced, be it films, art, heritage sites, or even for that matter written literature, thrives on gender-based understanding. The messages can be interpreted and analyzed on the basis of audience understanding and methodological diversity. Gender can significantly influence how messages are engaged with cultural context. For example, men and women have different emotional response or preferences for certain type of information or exhibitions. Understanding this difference is very crucial if you look from the audience reception point of view or from the users and gratification point of view. Diversity and cultural profiling. There are various factors that works towards understanding audience, such as ethnography, social groups, community, peer circles, among others. Hence, designing the content by media is heavily determined by these factors. By profiling audience based on genders, researchers can identify the trends and inform the design and marketing of cultural events. Scientific differences. In gender also, there's a lot of neuroimaging technologies and audience eye tracking. It reveals that men and women look, or for that matter, even the third gender or other genders also look at things differently. They focus on different aspects of performance or exhibition, leading to a deeper understanding of the experience. Even after analyzing all the above determining factors, it is crucial to know that there are certain areas where the messages designed for gender could differ significantly. For example, in health messages, most messages designed for gender in terms of health depend on different factors like accessibility to health information. It also depends whether the women have right to their opinion in choosing health facility. There are also instances where gender face difficulties in sharing about their health issues. There are a lot of health issues which women or other third gender or maybe other genders feel difficulty in conversing about it and did not find the required content in the television, which is very broadly segregated. Next is financial matters. In a society which has always been leaning towards male gender, making financial decisions have been strictly under this male purview. In such a case, the media designs financial messages targeting the male. All the financial advertisements have a male protagonist, creates a certain order where the genders have been sidelined. In such case also, the audience reception, the way the different gender receive certain message is highly sidelined. In political messages, the media design messages, they are mostly non-inclusive. This stems out from the fact that a sizable number of people in the policy making are not at all gender sensitive. Hence, the message or content generated by the media leads them to have a gender block. In summary, we see that in terms of specific contents, mostly related to health, information, political matters, financial matters, education matters, the media content that is generated is sometimes stereotyped or designed by the owners who are male themselves. So the principles of understanding audience restrictions needs to be employed diverse methodology, especially in terms of how gender responds to it and how the content is being given out for the gender to perceive. In all this summarizing, we do understand that audience analysis is very crucial while designing. Information of the designing of materials is very crucial to understand how the audience would receive. Media selection, whether all genders everywhere have access to these media, as well as understanding that there are certain things like, social and behavioral change communication which can work strategically towards establishing a certain norm. Gender dynamics is very crucial, and audience engagement in different cultural forms is very crucial. We have to understand that gender is not an isolated topic. It is something which is an impact or which is a product of a cultural manifestation also. Gender and culture are very intrinsically related because the way a particular gender is being treated in a particular society has a lot of cultural implications. For example, in ancient times, or there were scriptures which spoke about how genders should behave or how the role of genders were kind of given out. So in order to break those cultural ethos or maybe to adhere to those cultural ethos, there's a lot of perception that goes on. So the feministic understanding of media says that women or men are already processed to understand message in a certain way. They are already processed. There's a lot of processing that has taken place over the years, and this process has become a part of our belief that we believe that sometimes this should work like this. While designing a particular message, it is very crucial to understand who the audience are. If it is from a feministic perspective, we do understand that these female do have a certain cultural background to them. So whether the message is being designed to adhere to the cultural forms as well as contest the level of equality that can be promoted through those cultural forms. So that becomes very crucial for us to understand. Not just culture, even traditional ideas, even for that matter, modern ethos. The modern ethos, modernity is again contested by feminism. Modernity does not, rest on the fact that women are smoking and drinking equally with that of men, but modernity comes with the idea that something which is harmful for a male gender is also harmful for a female gender. That is the concept of modernity that the feministic actually promote. So when we understand these broad perspective, we also have to understand that the reception of content is actually a little different. So a lot of emotional content that is sometimes generated by the media adheres more to the women because the content is designed in a way that they feel that women are better interpreting such emotional things. That cannot be an idea of developing stereotypical form of ideas. That has to foster more with how the cultural ethos have been generated and change, slightly add diverse and more variations into this idea. With this, we come to the conclusion of today's unit. In this unit, we have understood the importance of messages. We have understood how feminism is redefining the course of messages. We do understand that feminism is a very broad topic, and it's not just about feminism, it's also about the inclusion of different genders. Media has been behaving in a very traditional manner for a long time now, but with the digital interactions, with artificial intelligence coming in, the content that is generated by the media needs to be studied thoroughly. There are a lot of issues that needs to be taken up, like what kind of messages they are reinforcing, whether they are taking into consideration the different theories. The users and gratification theory or the audience reception theory and numerous other theories were not designed for the digital world, or were not designed for social media, not designed for the multimedia prospects that we have today. But yet, there are some underlying implications of the theories which still be implied. Secondly, we have to understand that whatever message is being given by the media, the interpretation, analysis, and reception by different genders, especially from the feministic point of view, is very different. Female audience has number of differences in terms of how they react to certain things, how their emotional involvement actually works towards understanding or perceiving a certain message. So that is very crucial and is very essential for someone working in the media sector. Media literacy is important. Content literacy is also important. Media needs to understand where to draw the line, where to bring out social norms, and media should know how to promote equality in terms of all. So with this, we come to the end of another interesting module. Till then, bye.